Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Oh, welcome to Free Energy Friday. Oh man, hold on a second, guys. My stuff's all tangled up. I just realized. Crap. Sorry, one sec. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. I'm having a disaster right here. Hold on. Okay, there. Okay. Apologies for that, chat. Hope you guys are having a good one. Okay, today is Free Energy Friday. So today we are going to be talking about Dirac holes, guys. And we're also going to look at this MEC video. If you guys are not familiar with the MEC is the free energy device that was from Kelper Aerospace. Okay. Oh, God, hold on. Here we go. Good enough, frankly. Oh, man. Okay. So, and then we may also take a look at this free energy video that I've got here as well, just if we have time. Sorry, this is, man, embarrassing. Come on. Okay. There we go. There we go. Sorry, I realized everything was all strung up there. Okay, let's get this thing started. Thank you for being here early too, guys. Appreciate you. I'm actually looking for the video right now. And then before I do that, I'm just going to explain all the science again, as I like to do several times now. So I just created a black hole. Don't want that. Is this the one? That's the MEG. Huh. I'm looking to figure out where I put this video. Do not know. Okay. Okay, well, let's start with the good stuff. Okay, free energy. How is free energy possible? Well, first thing we need to understand is that there is energy everywhere. There's energy everywhere out there. 0-point fluctuations prove that there's energy everywhere. And that's the basic concept that we need to understand to believe and understand how any of the science operates. So it was called the Dirac Sea, and that's important because we're going to be looking at something called the Dirac holes today, and that energy can be tapped into. We know that energy can be tapped into because of the Casimir effect. Casimir effect shows that if we take two plates, conductive plates, put those surfaces right next to each other, there will be an attractive force. I think it was Forward who pointed out that you could use this to essentially create a dipole, which would allow us to extract energy. May not be repeatable, but we've looked at Casimir cavities and dynamic Casimir effect, which shows that there may be a method to make it repeatable. So we know that we can extract energy from the environment that's out there. Laws of thermodynamics come into play here. First law of thermodynamics would say that energy can't be created or destroyed. Energy has to be conserved. The way around this is pretty straightforward. We just need energy to be out there already. It really shouldn't be that much of a stretch because energy is mass. And there's mass all around us everywhere. The universe is filled with it. So where did that mass and energy come from? And the logical conclusion would be there's a source of all of that energy and mass. So the ether, as I like to call it, because that's what the scientists in the early 1900s called it, is filled with that energy, the Dirac Sea that's out there. Richard Feynman from the Manhattan Project said that energy, there's enough energy in, we're drinking Mountain Dew tonight, in like this bottle to vaporize all the Earth's oceans. So there is a huge, huge amount of energy that's out there that's available to us. We just need to be able to tap into it. And when we tap into it, we're borrowing it. Remember, like extract energy from here, energy appears here. This is the concept of free energy. Extract this energy, energy appears over here. That's why we maintain conservation of energy with free energy devices. The second law is the one that is the biggest one that is that's harder to wrap your brain around. And usually the issue with the second law is even if you Google the second law of thermodynamics, you get like 5 different explanations. It's not nearly as clear as what people imagine. The explanation that I like the best for second law of thermodynamics to really wrap your brain around it is if you take a closed system, homogeneous closed system, then any hot zone will move towards the cold zone anywhere within that in terms of the flow of temperature, and because heat is energy. So it will always flow to I don't know, the colder state. And the other more important, the important aspect of it is you're always going to lose some energy in the form of heat due to inefficiency in any process, no matter what. You can minimize that, but you'll never achieve 100% efficiency. These laws are what people believe means that free energy is not possible in a system. But as Bernie just pointed out that I just put on the screen here, is that if you open your system up, so you don't have a closed system anymore, you open it up to external force, you have an external input, now you can get around the laws of thermodynamics. The analogy that I like to give, it's probably not a perfect analogy, is that if you just have a windmill and you just look at the windmill itself, you wouldn't think that the windmill can produce any energy. But once you add the wind to it and you allow it to spin, now it's producing energy. So we do the same thing with the idea of the ether. We take our device and we open it up to the 0-point energy field and add an extra input. And the benefit is better than wind. 0-point energy is better than wind because it's out there everywhere and it's unlimited and we can tap into it at will. We don't need to wait for the wind to show up. And when it comes to comparing it to solar power, we don't have to, it doesn't need to be sunny outside. The energy is always there. So 0-point energy is superior to all other forms of energy by far. Okay. And so this is how we can get around the second law of thermodynamics. So our system still is not necessarily 100% efficient. It could still be 90% efficient. We might still lose 10% of the energy due to heat, but that's fine because we have an external input. So this is how we can get above unity, over unity. Over unity is 100% real. And this goes to show that it's really just a matter of brainwashing in terms of why we don't think it's possible. The moment you look at it from that perspective, there's no denying it. There's nothing any physicist in the world can say. The only thing they can say is that's not how I was taught it. That's it. Simple as that. So then the next part is, well, what even is energy? Where is energy coming from? I would argue all energy is coming from the ether. All of it. All the time. And to understand this, you simply need to understand how power plants work. Like people just think that like, oh, well, we're burning coal and then that coal just turns into energy and then we just put that into the power lines. That's not how it works. Basically, every form of a power plant is used to spin a turbine, to spin a generator, no matter how you do it. It's crazy when you look up like nuclear power, for example, how indirect it is. It's not that we just take rods of plutonium and then, or whatever, uranium, whatever the things are, and then they just turn into energy. No, they use it to create steam. And then that steam blows through a turbine. That turbine spins. And then that is basically acts as a generator. It's a very indirect route. So imagine now that now we can boil it all down. Is that an energy system, any form of power plant is basically just spinning a turbine. It's a generator. All the generators are doing in all situations is creating your dipole. Make it an asymmetrical charge. Asymmetry, meaning the negative charges are down here, positive charges are up here. So you can imagine it just like a battery. And the battery runs out when it becomes symmetrical again, when all the energy or all the negative charges match up with the positive charges, and then there's no imbalance anymore. That's when the power has run out. So any form of energy is doing out there is keeping this dipole open. That's it. That's all our generators are doing all the time. That's how wind power is working. That's how they're all functioning. You're just keeping that dipole open. So we should look at the problem completely differently. The problem isn't burning fuel and what have you. The problem is keeping the dipole open. We just want to keep this open all the time. And it should be obvious that there's probably more efficient ways of doing that. Why are we, and there's going to be a video that's going to come out. I did an interview today that should be coming out soon. You think of it from the swing perspective, and I'm going to give this same analogy that I gave in the interview today, so you guys will get a sneak peek. And I've said this many times before, is that when we push on a swing, we don't constantly push on it. I don't sit there running behind the swing with the person on the swing pushing on it like this. That's stupid. Why would we do that? It's inefficient. Instead, I wait for the swing to get to its highest point, and then I push on it as it's coming down. Give it the most amount of force possible. That way I'm being efficient about it. That's the same thing that we need to look at in terms of keeping our dipole open, keeping those charges separated. And what's the best way to do that? We need some way where we can get like a free force, a force that's out there that doesn't ever go away. The first thing that comes to mind is a magnet. You know, you have your magnets, and you've got this dipole in your magnet. You got a north up here, and you got a south down here. So maybe there's some way where we can manipulate magnetism in order to keep our dipole open. This is the concept of free energy. Now, there may be other ways to pull it off as well, and it's a matter of then engineering it so that you can manipulate magnetism in order to keep electrons separated and to keep a negative charge differential or an asymmetrical charge differential. So there we go, guys. Yeah, permanent magnets seem like a pretty good way to pull it off in general, but I think there's also other ways. I think electromagnetism could also pull it off, but it may not be as efficient. But permanent magnets are definitely seem like a way where it's like, something there. And then also, when we look at superconductors, I think superconductors are very interesting as well. Why? So I just made a post about superconductors, guys. And let me see, I'm going to pull up So a superconductor, what is a superconductor? Superconductor is a macroscopic quantum effect with respect to when the superconductor hovers over a magnet. Macroscopic quantum effect. And superconductors are very interesting. Okay, so let me pull this up. Sorry, I'm just getting some text messages. Because the Meissner effect, or Meissner, I'm going to call it Meissner. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. The Meissner effect. So when you look at this image right here, or actually this one's even better, these are your magnetic fields. Look at how the magnetic field, and so temperature here is below the critical temperature. So when you see this TC in a superconductor, this is the critical temperature where your metal, your whatever, your semiconductor becomes superconductive. So that's what TC means. So whenever you see that TC, that means the critical temperature threshold. So when you are seeing stuff where people are talking about high temperature superconductors, usually you'll see them refer to TC increasing, because the higher your TC is, the closer to room temperature your superconductor is. And look at what happens when you get your temperature below the critical temperature. The magnetic fields bend around your object. So in this situation too, you can imagine any situation where you have a weird magnetic effect going on, there's probably a way to manipulate free energy, in my opinion. And then I want to point this out, this is as far as I'm willing to push it. is that notice that with free energy, there's a connection to mass reduction, also referred to as anti-gravity, and temperature reduction as well. So I'll let you guys imagine on why there's a connection to mass reduction, but keep in mind, Ning Li, Eugene Potklinov, all these guys, they were all looking into semiconductors related to gravity manipulation. In fact, so was Dave Rossi. Presumably, there's more than one way to pull it off. And my favorite in terms of anti-gravity is superconductors. Because when I look at, I mean, just look at this picture right here, chat. We're looking at a picture of a superconductor floating over a magnet freely. To me, I'm staring at anti-gravity right there. It's just a matter of engineering the anti-gravity, right? And then the third effect is your temperature reduction effect. The temperature reduction effect. And why is there a temperature reduction effect? Because we're extracting energy from one location and it's appearing somewhere else. Energy, heat is energy. So, of course, if you reduce the energy in one location, you should expect the temperature to reduce as you're moving that energy anywhere else. Anywhere else. Just like this, just like a balloon. Okay. So let me see real quick. Oh, boy. Where is the video on the MEC? Oh, boy. Where did I put it? That's Rambo and Friends. Let me see if it's in here. If not, I've got some backup videos, but is this it? No. Oh, yeah, here's. Okay, we found it, chat. We found it. Okay. Which one is it? This one? Okay. So, what I found. Wait, why isn't this changing screen? And somebody sent me this. They probably sent me this. I don't know, guys. I have so many links and stuff like that. Like, I actually can't even keep track of where I get them all from. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking to see the chats here. So this video here is the MEC. This is actually from Bob Greenier's YouTube channel. So if you guys are not following the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, that's Bob Greenier's YouTube channel. Go ahead and follow his channel as well. This presentation was the 10th of April, 2024. So this wasn't even that long ago. And in this presentation, this is a Russian guy who's connected to the MEC from Kepler. This is basically, it's not the, I think it's like it's like a smaller version of their device. Maybe it is the exact same one. I'm not sure. This is him explaining how the device operates. And let's see what we want to watch in this part. I didn't watch the whole thing. Let's just check like a couple minutes out of it. And then what I found from this is there's a link to a website where or another video that had been deleted off of YouTube, and some Russian person re-uploaded it, and it shows the cooling effect. So we're going to watch and check out the cooling effect as well. For Chris, I don't know. It's your question's a little too out there for me. I don't really care why it all works generally, although there are some pretty profound questions to ask in terms of, what's the nature of all this? Where does a magnet even come from, etc. I would say it's probably related to geometry. Yeah. Especially because you can imagine the ether, that extra dimension with all the energy, is probably enfolded at the smallest Planck scale. And that's where Salvatore Pais' superforce comes into play, is at the smallest scales, at the Planck scale, that's the interaction between all the forces. And that's what Salvatore Pais believes the superforce is. Okay, so let's watch this.
It's important to emphasize, especially when power is drawn from the device, that is when an active load is connected to the generator, it affects the change in weight. The greater the load, the more the weight of the device changes. Here is a consultative model built to resemble the roller bearing with a stationary, with a central cylindrical magnet from the...
His accent is pretty damn hard to understand. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But he basically said the more load that you're putting on your device, the more the weight changes from a mass reduction effect.
Series of rotating magnetic rollers around the perimeter. It only required a booster engine to operate. The car sped up to about 300 to 400 revolutions, and then the machine became energy independent. The rotor began to self-accelerate, and it had to be slowed down by connecting an increasingly heavy load to the generator.
So this is interesting too, because the device becomes self-sufficient after it reaches a certain amount of RPMs, and then actually it has to be slowed down because otherwise it's self-accelerating at that point, and you could blow it out. So these devices actually, it's kind of counterintuitive, but once it reaches the point where it's producing more energy than it actually takes to input, it's going to start massively self-accelerating, and you don't want to destroy your device. So you actually need to slow it down. You need to modulate it somehow.
At maximum load, it lost weight at around 6 kilowatts, approximately 35% of the platform's total weight. If compared to the weight of the magnetic system, it essentially equals the weight of the rollers, somewhere around 120 to 130 kilograms, the rollers weight. Essentially, during the machine's operation, the rollers became weightless, you could say. Here, around the car, the temperature dropped by about 6, by 8 degrees, but I will elaborate later. Why did I call this method progressive? Because it's like a new way of producing energy and creating thrust at the same time. Plus, innovative.
So right away there too, they're pointing out you can use this for thrust as well. So you can use this for energy production, thrust, and this is why all of these concepts are directly linked to one another. So people wondered, somebody asked me on Twitter, like, Ashton, what do you think about, do you think that we could push off of the ether? Yes, of course. Of course we can. If we are in a medium, just like how a submarine moves, submarine just moves the water and uses that to push forward. You could use the same thing to push out. If there's electromagnetic waves and if we block those fields in order to create a pressure differential, absolutely, we can push off of the ether. It may not be a very powerful effect, but who cares? When you're in outer space, even a small acceleration adds up. This is the whole idea of EM drive. This is why EM drive has to be suppressed, and why if you guys are for orbsies in here, then we don't need to get all of these right. Well, like, we don't need all of these to be disclosed. If any one of these concepts gets proven to be real, we get proven correct on everything. This is the beauty of believing in science and trusting science, is that if free energy, let's start with the easiest one. If EM drive is proven to work, that we have anomalous thrust from a device that has no propellant whatsoever, then that will prove, then conventional physics will think that it's breaking conservation of momentum and therefore conservation of energy. But we know it's not, because we know the first law of thermodynamics means that there is energy out there that we can exchange with in order to conserve energy. So if EM drive is real, it automatically proves that free energy is real and possible, and it automatically proves that warp drives are possible, and it automatically proves that wormholes are all possible. All of them. The whole, it's like a domino effect. They all just immediately come down. So when you see me promoting EM drive, it's not that I think that EM drive is that exciting. To me, it's like basically like figuring out how fire works. It's like, yeah, fire's pretty cool, but like, I want a barbecue. I want a blast furnace. I want to take it to the nth degree. So there we go.
Cooling technology, meaning you don't need a coolant like in regular fridges, and there's no need for direct contact with the item you want to cool. That is actually, if you have a fish container, you can cool this fish right through the wall. Then there was some kind of synergistic effect. The lower the temperature, the higher the output power, more holiday electricity. And it turns out that, so you're lowering the temperature around or somewhere within a given object, you get electricity. If this electricity is directed towards producing, let's say, green hydrogen with water electrolysis, you can get liquefied gas, liquid hydrogen on the spot through cooling. Well, as people usually say, this technology is eco-friendly. So I think it will receive the best development soon.
I don't really follow what he was talking about right there. Didn't really make a lot of sense in context of MEC, but sure. for the people that know about the plane stuff, guys, I'm trying to keep it on topic today. You can check out my Twitter post, but yes, there was a plane that crashed. No, I don't think there was any magic orbs or anything related to it. Sometimes planes just stall and they crash. So, I mean, if more information comes out, then maybe I'll dig into it. But I have no reason at this point to believe there's any anomalous stuff going on that plane that crashed. The smaller the plane, the more likely it is your plane will crash. So I personally hate flying on tiny planes. I don't like flying at all, though, to be honest with you.
So, Social, what to say? We got a Russian patent, then got an American patent. There were
Okay, what is that paper? Can you guys see what this paper says right here? That says AIAA. An experimental investigation of the physical effects in dynamic magnet system. We might need someone to find us that paper. Interesting. Let me write that down. What does it say? An experimental investigation of the physical effects in a dynamic magnet system. Aerospace Research Center. Yeah, okay, I found it. Russian Academy of Science. Experimental research of magnetic gravity effects are presented. Anomalous magnetic thermal charges within a radius of 15 meters from the research device are measured as well. Okay, well, that's interesting. 2001, huh? Okay. We'll keep that one on there for later checking out. Pretty nice. Okay, I think I'm going to switch. Here, I'll post a link to the paper you guys can check out. I'll also post a link to the Discord for people that are watching. So if you're on YouTube or if you're on Twitter, you can see it there. Post a link to the Discord. Okay, there we go. Okay. What else is he saying here? I can't see the patent. Patent's too small. But maybe something to check out later. Okay, Ryan posted a downloadable PDF. There you guys go. Yeah, there's a Discord link. Discord link's right there, guys, if you wanted. Okay, I think I'm going to switch over to the other one. It's too hard to understand this guy. But he shows, this is basically a modified serial device, SEARL, serial. And he explains why it works from a magnetic perspective here. I like Russian people because there's less suppression from the Russians, although there is suppression, but we have way more suppression of this stuff. The United States government and the military contractors are absolutely suppressing this type of technology, anything related to it. That's why you find a lot of the Russian and Chinese, Korean stuff is a lot more open-minded and straightforward, because we don't generally, like, we just basically like kill the people or silence the people or bring them in. Okay, so here's the cooling effect. This is the independent confirmation of the cooling effect from the serial device. This is what I want to show you guys. So he ends up talking about it here, and he says, I think he even posts a link or something, so I found that link. So we're going to look at this serial device and the temperature reduction. It's pretty spicy. Okay, so let's look at this. Is this one it? This one? Wait, which one is it? This one? Oh, wait, no, we are going to look at that in a second. That Tesla thing we're going to look at in a second. Sorry, I didn't pull it up. It's down here. Serial cooling. Where did my stuff just go? Okay, here we go. Yeah, the debunkers went totally silent, which is absolutely fine by me. It's what I've been begging for a long, long time. And they'll get more and more silent as time goes on, because once you start digging into the science, it becomes pretty irrefutable that the videos must be real, because basically nobody believed any of the science was possible. So unless the debunker was some kind of savant that was multi-talented, that knew quantum mechanics better than PhD physicists than 99.9% of the PhDs out there, and was a VFX expert, and also knew about military capabilities and assets and classified satellites capabilities, there's just no possible way the videos can be fake. And this is why that nobody ever comes up with any scenario for who faked the videos, because there's not any logical scenario. They have to be real. And then it gets awkward too, because there's a lot of people that tried to debunk the MH370 videos, and some people that posted some fraudulent content. And those people might face criminal charges for what they did. Definitely will face civil penalties for sure at an absolute minimum. So you start to realize that a lot of people, their egos have been wrapped up in the idea that the videos must be fake. Also, then with respect to even the people in the UFO community, like people in the UFO community are going to lose everything. Like they're going to lose their paychecks. They're going to lose their credibility. Like all the UFO personas and personalities, all these people that like blocked me or whatever because they thought that what I was pushing was fake. The moment these videos get proven real, then I just scooped the entire UFO community on true disclosure of technology. And I'm a nobody that came out of nowhere and did it. And I did it by simply looking into the science, something they could have done anytime they wanted, and they never did. So when you just look at the landscape, so many people have so much to lose. And that's not even talking about the government yet either. And that's what's going to happen. Just to be perfectly clear, I am going to drag everybody. If you think I'm some great person that's going to rise above it, no, you're wrong. If you were somebody that came at me, that you were somebody who tried to defame me, if you were somebody who was trying to ridicule me, I'm going to push that back on you 100 times fold. I'm going to make you delete your social media accounts. I am never going to let you live it down for the rest of your life. Just so we're 100% clear, that's what's going to happen. I don't care if you're some Jersey Shore trash podcaster or some douchebag idiot in Florida. I don't care if you are a PhD in physics or whatever that tried to talk smack. I don't care if you are even some shitty debunker who's got like 500 followers that was paying money to try to lie about me. I'm going to drag every single one of you guys until you quit social media and are too ashamed to show your face anywhere. Cool. Now that we've got that out in the open, let's go to the next thing. This man can cook. We out here cooking. Okay, so this is some Russian website. And why do you think this guy's wearing gloves? Oh, real quick, for a person locked, I don't have to prove anything. That's the beauty. A lot of people seem to think that I'm going to prove something that's out there. No. When you know that science is real, why would I bother proving anything? It's like knowing the future. It's like, you know, the science is going to be proven in the future. All I have to do is sit back and wait. I don't have to do shit. I can just sit back and wait, and I can just tell people that it's going to end up happening. And it's going to happen 100%. And all I have to wait is for the first domino to fall over. Once the first domino falls over, everything I've been saying is proven to be true. All I need is one proven experiment from an EM drive. That's all I need. And you know what? They're planning 2 of them next year. So they're going to have to suppress both of those in order to prevent this from getting out. So, and it's only going to get harder and harder. Eventually, it's going to come out. It's going to be faster than you guys think. It probably will be several years, but it's going to happen. Okay, here we go. So this guy also shows you how to build it too, by the way. So I just want to point out, for the people that think that I don't show people free energy devices, or all you have to do is show people, well, here's another video that's on YouTube that basically goes through all the steps on how to produce the device. This is the Searl device, SEAIRL. That's it, right? This is like, you guys can just, like, there's certain devices out there that just seem to work. If I had to guess, I'd say Bendini's device probably works. Searl device probably works. I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that I wouldn't say all the things that Tom Bearden has promoted work, but it's a pretty good guess. You want to look at anything that Tom Bearden looked into. Yeah, at the end of the day, like, because it's never been about trying to show people or open sourcing it. These are the kinds of people that, no disrespect, just have no idea how the world really works, especially when it comes to science. It's never been about that. Remember when we reviewed the Casimir cavity thing? And Garrett Modell is basically like, what does the science community say? He's done all these experiments. He's ruled out all these anomalous possibilities. Scientific community, nothing. Says literally nothing about it. Total silence, radio silence. I mean, that's the truth. It's just out there, guys. I'm going to skip ahead of some of this so we don't have to watch this whole deal. But basically, it shows you how to put it together. Shows them building it here. Basically, building all the motors or the rotors here. Okay, experiment time. Okay, so this is a thermal meter. You guys can see the temperatures on there. You can see the colors. First thing I want to point out is look at the very middle. The very middle is in green. Okay, that's going to be important as well. Notice there's a cooling zone they're pointing out right now. And also, if you're watching very carefully as well, you'll notice that the middle is also starting to drop in temperature as well, very slowly by about 0.1 degree Celsius every few seconds. But on the bottom south area of the screen right here, you see this cooling zone as well. It's pretty incredible. The temperature already dropped to 10 degrees Celsius, and you can see it dropping as well. In the south part here, it says 9.4 degrees Celsius, and it's going to keep dropping. In fact, if you look at the middle, remember the middle was green? It's already blue now. See, the neodymium. I'm gonna have to learn how to pronounce this name. It's in the middle. It's already dropped to 14 degrees Celsius as well. So there's multiple points where you have cooling happening. Now the cool zone down here has already dropped down to 8 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, this is happening very quickly. Neodymium. Okay, neodymium. Yeah, neodymium. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, however you say your name, Lumpy. Neodymium. Okay, neodymium. Yeah, that's the right way. Neodymium. I don't know why I struggled. cooling zone along the trajectory of the rollers as well. Now the cooling zone has dropped to 4 degrees Celsius. Remember, this was at like 15 or 20 degrees Celsius. Now it's down to 4 degrees Celsius. And now the magnet in the middle is down to 7 degrees Celsius. So remember, the middle started green. Now it's like blue and a little bit black. So ask yourself now, why were they filming the MH370 videos in thermal? Why were they filming the MH370 video in thermal? This is why. This is why. Because when you're extracting free energy and you're tapping into the ether, you have thermal effects. They wanted to see it all black. They wanted to see the cold black event. It was 100% intelligence purposes. That's the reason why they were filming that event with a drone using an advanced thermal camera. And that's very important too, because if you're faking the video, you just fake it in an optical view. You wouldn't fake it in some thermal. It doesn't make any sense to fake it in thermal. It's thermal because they want to see what's happening to that plane when they orbit away with a wormhole. Almost 0 degrees. I'm actually a little bit afraid to post this. I actually had to see if it would be fine if I post this because I don't know. I think there's some excuse people will use. People make up, they're going to make up some, say, this is some other effect or some shit like that. Guys, it's fucking cooling down. It's cooling down, man. Like, just look with your eyes here. Look at the middle. The middle is black now. The middle is black. It was green. It's black now. The magnet, the neodymium magnet, is cooled down to minus 2 degrees Celsius, or 2 degrees. I can't tell if it's minus 2 or 2, but now it's cooled down. Pretty wild. Yeah, you know they're going to be like, it's a well-air-conditioned room. And they're going to be like, the air conditioning is blowing directly on it. That's what the debunkers are going to say, some bullshit like that. Or no, they'll be like, the video's old. This video is from 14 years ago. That's my favorite. When I looked back at the MH370 videos from August of last year, one of the comments said, the video's 10 years old. That's why it has to be fake. You're like, what? What? How is that somebody's real argument? Is that the video is old? That means it's fake? Look at that cooling. I'm going to lower the volume because it's just music. I mean, you can see, like, look at how hot the ring is. The temperature zone, look how cold it is. -6, -7 degrees now, Celsius. In the cold zone. In the middle, what's the middle at? The middle is -10 degrees in the middle now. -10 degrees Celsius. It's freezing. The middle is literally below freezing. -10 degrees Celsius in the middle. So what would we expect? If the middle is -10 degrees, that is really, really cold. This is Celsius, guys. That's below 0. Anything below 0 is freezing. Just for my people that are my Americans out there. When we're dealing with Celsius, anything below 0 is freezing. So I would expect condensation to be wrapping up onto the middle of the roller. Condensation should be collecting, and I would expect there to be frost. I mean, it might even be little elements of frost on the roller. -7 degrees down there. Cold zone's -7 degrees Celsius. This is cool. The reason why I love this video is because it really shows how the magnets are able to interact with the ether and extract energy from it, because they're extracting energy locally and they're turning it into usable power that can be turned into, you can power a load off of, literal work. So there must be an energy reduction effect. You must be sucking energy out of somewhere. And even the middle area there is slightly cooled as well, he said, to 21 degrees Celsius. It helps you to understand where the effects are happening too. And even says, could it be the Cyril effect? I want to know what's the weight of it. If they had this thing on suspended, and then we can see what the weight reduction is. Okay, so now he's going to stop the unit. You can already hear it slowing down. Cold zone is gone. The neodymium is completely frozen. Look at that. He pulls frost off of it. This is frost on the neodymium magnet in the middle. Literally just, you can see it with his finger right there. Look at this. He touches it with frost. Wipes the frost off on his finger. You can see it. Holy shit. That is weird.
Будучи отрицательно заряженными, электрон сжимается, провоцируя падение температуры и создавая энергетический...
Okay, so I wanted to show that. Hope you enjoyed that video. I think it's pretty cool. I'll post a link to it in the chat if you guys want to check it out for yourself. The part where he pulls the frost off, that's like, oh boy, there's no way to fake that, man. It's like, it has to be cold. We just watched the device wind down. Okay, so that was pretty cool. That's why I think that part's important. So now this makes sense then when we start to look at like the Kepler device, right? And the Kepler thing, because now we understand why they're claiming that the temperature is being reduced in the Kepler device. So let me go back to that real quick. I think this is it right here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you guys, I'm just trying to be careful about the stuff that I show. I already know all this stuff's 100% real. And I know the people that are hiding it don't really want it to come out. So I don't want to fall down any elevator shafts, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, I want the information out. So the best I can do is teach you guys the concepts and show you guys stuff. And then, you guys are smart. You'll figure it out. So the Kepler device here, the MEC can convert almost unlimited energy source known as the quantum physics as the vacuum state, the dark energy or 0-point energy into conventional mechanical electromagnetic energy, which can be harnessed as electricity used to turn wheels, turbines, etc. The prototype is constructed from in the form of a wheel with fixed center stator and series of rotating magnet rollers around the perimeter, which spin at a fixed speed. The main disc is attached to the shaft, which was coupled to a conventional generator to produce energy. It only requires a starter motor to requires a starter motor and becomes self-sufficient at 300 RPMs. So that's what the Russian guy was saying, is that once you get to 300, it's self-sustaining and is now producing more energy than that comes into it. And then it's powering itself. The Kepler MEC prototype successfully produced 35% loss or gain of weight, depending on which way it's flipped, right? If you have it faced towards the ground, you're going to have increase of weight. And it produces 5 to 7 kilowatts of electricity. It also caused a temperature decrease of 6 to 8 degrees in the local vicinity as well. So now we understand why there's going to be a temperature decrease as well. Because even in those local zones, you can imagine that the area around it's going to cool down as well. So pretty neat stuff on that front. Now let's go take a look at what's next on my list. Crap, where are all my links? Chat, I've got too much stuff up. Okay, that's the physical thing. Where's my Dirac holes? Oh, here they are. Okay. Next thing I want to look at real quick is Dirac holes, and then I think we'll do a little bit of Tesla, and then we'll probably call it after that, honestly, for tonight. So let's take a look at this. Let me just take a quick look at how long this is. It's kind of long. I don't know if we're going to be able to read this whole thing, but this paper is pretty good. How did I find this paper? Well, how did I find this paper? I was looking at stuff related to Dirac hole theory, because Dirac C is the idea of this unlimited energy source that's out there. And one of the Wikipedia things mentioned this idea of the Dirac holes. And the idea of the Dirac hole is that, like, the sea of energy all around us. Let me go back to full screen. The sea of energy all around us is in a negative energy state all the time. Same way we imagine our equilibrium, so that every energy below that's negative. This is positive energy, like adding the earth or mass or energy to a region of space-time. Reducing it is negative energy. So it's this idea of a hole where I can pluck something out of there and then it becomes real usable energy. And so you leave this hole behind when you pluck that energy out of there. That's the way I conceptualize it. You have to keep in mind that a lot of this physics, it's a matter of just trying to like wrap your brain around and conceptualize it to a degree. It's probably not working exactly the way we conceptualize it. We're just trying to give some type of structure to the ideas that the physics promotes and the physics shows us and tells us. Okay, so let's give credit to Dan Solomon. Please don't go stalking this guy. He's got his whole address on here. Maybe I shouldn't have posted that. I might be doxing him here, but hey, it's a publicly available paper, so there you go. Yeah, and go ahead and hit the like button. Appreciate you guys. The science stuff, I'm going to post this paper on Twitter as well, but the science gets like the least amount of views. People want to hear like dramatic stuff. They want to hear me calling out the U.S. government and calling science influencers idiots and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the hard science is the most important stuff. Okay. So in Dirac hole theory, so Dirac hole theory is going to be abbreviated as HT, I guess, for hole theory. The vacuum state is generally believed to be the state of minimum energy due to the assumption that the Pauli exclusion principle prevents the decay of positive energy electrons into occupied negative energy states. However, recently papers have appeared that claim to show that there exist states with less energy than the vacuum. Why is this important? Because conventional physics, and the only reason why I say conventional physics is that I mean like physics that mainstream accepts, believes that the vacuum of space-time is the lowest it can possibly go. They think that down here, there's nothing else in there. That's it. This is why I say space is not empty, because space vacuum is not down here. It's up here. It's up here somewhere. So if that's possible, there are states where there's less energy than what we imagine to be zero. Here we consider a simple model of hole theory consisting of zero mass electron in a 1/1d spacetime. It will be shown that for this model, there exist states with less energy than the hole theory vacuum state, and that the Pauli principle is obeyed. Therefore, the conjecture that the Pauli principle prevents the existence of states with less energy in the vacuum is not correct. So what is this basically saying? This is saying everything that I've been telling you guys. Negative energy is possible. Let's explain it right here. We can go from our equilibrium state up here to a negative energy state. This is the idea. This unifies, this connects what Hal Puthoff says about your energy state. You can reduce energy over here, which will increase energy over here. So it is possible. Crazy, huh? It is well known there are both positive and negative energy solutions to the Dirac equation. This creates a problem in that an electron is in a positive energy state will quickly decay to a negative energy state in the presence of perturbations. This, of course, is not normally observed to occur. This problem presumably resolved in the Dirac hole theory by assuming that all the negative energy states are occupied by a single electron, and then invoking the Pauli exclusion principle to prevent the decay of positive energy electrons into negative energy states. The proposition that negative energy states are all occupied turns a one electron theory into an n electron theory where n approaches infinity. Due to the fact that negative energy vacuum electrons obey the same Dirac equation as the positive energy electrons, we have to, in principle, track the time evolution of an infinite number of states. Also, the vacuum electrons in their unperturbed state are unobservable. There we go. So why don't we see it? Says right there. Because we can't see, this basically says we can't see the ether until we extract that energy from the ether. And then it's there visible to us. All we can do is observe the differences from the unperturbed vacuum state. It is generally assumed that the whole theory vacuum state is the state of minimum energy. That is, the energy of all other states must be greater than that of the vacuum state. However, a number of papers by the author have shown that this is not the case. It was shown in these papers that states exist in whole theory that have less energy than the vacuum state. So there we go. This basically says negative energy is 100% possible. And now all we have to do is reduce the energy state below the equilibrium in the vacuum, but below what we imagine is the empty vacuum. One possible objection to this result is that it seems to contradict the Pauli exclusion principle. It is the purpose of this paper to show that this is not the case. It will be shown that the existence of states with less energy than the whole theory of vacuum state is perfectly consistent with the Pauli principle. In this paper, we will consider the simple quantum theory consisting of non-interacting zero-mass electrons in the background electrical field. The advantage of such a simple system is that we can easily obtain exact solutions for the Dirac equation for any arbitrary electrical potential. This considerably simplifies the analysis. In the following discussion, we will assume that the system is in some initial state. Okay, I don't think we have to. Okay, let's read this. In the following discussion, we'll assume that the system is some initial state which consists of an infinite number of electrons occupying the negative energy states, the Dirac C. The Dirac C is this energy state of infinite energy that's out there, along with single positive energy electron. The system will then be perturbed by an electric field. Each electron will evolve in time according to the Dirac equation. At some period of time, the electric field is removed, and the charge in the energy of each electron can be calculated. The total change in the energy of the system is the sum of all these charges. It will be shown that it is possible to specify an electric field so that the final energy is less than the energy of the vacuum state. It will also be shown that this result is entirely consistent with the Pauli exclusion principle, so that we can manipulate the charges in such a way, in a real way, that we can produce negative energy from the vacuum. That's essentially what this says. If Hal Puthoff was watching this right now, he would be nodding, because he'd be going, this is what my paper that unifies gravity and electromagnetism his gravity and the 0-point fluctuations basically says in it. So once again, check out the 1989 paper by Hal Puthoff. Just Google his name, Hal Puthoff Scientific Papers, 1989. Gravity is explained as a 0-point energy fluctuations. That's what this paper basically proves. Okay, let's see. Let's just go straight to the conclusions, chat. We got a lot to go through, and I like videos. Where are the conclusions? Discussion. This result is somewhat surprising. It shows that in the whole theory, the unperturbed vacuum state is not the lowest energy state, and that it is possible to extract an unlimited amount of energy from an initial quantum state. Hello, chat. Hello. I sent this to some people after I found this, and they were like, holy shit, this paper is amazing. Where did you find this? And I was like, I'm good. What can I say? I'm a researcher. It shows that in whole theory, the unperturbed vacuum state is not the lowest energy state, and that it is possible to extract unlimited amounts of energy from an initial quantum state. Do you guys understand how free energy is possible yet? There you go. You just heard it. To review the results of the previous sections, we started with an initial system consisting of vacuum electrons in their unperturbed state and positive energy electron, as defined by 4.3. We then apply an electric potential. The result is that each wave function evolves from its initial state in accordance with the Dirac equation. we find that the change in energy of the vacuum electrons from the initial to final state is 0. This is true for any electric potential. However, when we consider the change in the energy of the wave function, the situation is different. In this case, if we set up the wave function so that some weird numbers here is non-zero, then we can easily find an electric potential such that the change in the energy of the wave function can be a negative number with an arbitrary large magnitude. What is that saying right there? It says that we can get negative energy of extremely high magnitude. The net result is that the total energy of the final system is negative with respect to the energy of the vacuum state. This result is consistent with 3 different citations that they list here. In fact, I want to look at those citations real quick, and then we'll come back up here. 1, 2, and 3. What are the citations? Some differences between Dirac's hole theory and quantum field theory. Some new results concerning the vacuum and the Dirac hole theory. Quantum states with less energy than the vacuum and Dirac hole theory. Not bad. This Dan Solomon guy, I hope this guy's got a good life insurance policy, because I can imagine Dan Solomon might end up disappearing. I probably shouldn't have doxed him earlier in the beginning of his paper. This is the kind of person who doesn't want too much attention on his work, probably. In the above example of the energy the energy of the vacuum electrons doesn't change, and the energy of the wave function, which was originally positive, becomes negative energy. Now, wasn't the Pauli principle supposed to prevent this? What exactly is the Pauli exclusion principle? In the context of hole theory, the Pauli principle is simply the statement that no more than one electron can occupy a given state at a given time. Equations 3.1 and 3.2 are the mathematical realization of this statement. The Pauli principle is a result of the fact that if the initial wave functions in the Slater determinant are orthogonal, then these wave functions will be orthogonal for all time. This is a consequence of the fact that the individual wave functions obey the Dirac equation. Therefore, 2 electrons cannot end up in the same state. Therefore, the calculations performed in the paper are consistent with the Pauli principle. All the wave functions are orthogonal for all time. This means that the conjecture that the Pauli principle prevents the existence of quantum states with less energy than that of the unperturbed vacuum state is not correct. I love this paper, chat. I love this paper. We wanted to know what negative energy was. We wanted to know how negative energy was possible. We wanted to know how negative energy connects to unlimited energy and free energy. And this paper explains it. And this paper does the math and tells us that the Pauli exclusion principle does not prevent that from being possible. So when some physicist comes to us to try to debate and says, well, the Pauli exclusion principle says that that the electrons can't be in the same location, therefore you can't have a negative energy state, we just go, wrong, 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 wrong. Simple. And then we pull up this paper. Easy as that, chat. Easy as that. In fact, I need to make sure I have this in my science papers. I don't see this in my science papers. Oh, I do have a link to Gravity as a 0-point energy fluctuation by Hal Puthoff. I will put that here, guys. So honestly, if you haven't read this paper, guys, like, please read the paper that you're going to see in the bottom of your screen right now. Read this paper. Read this paper. I would bet anyone any amount of money in the whole world that Hal Puthoff has seen some floaty orbs, okay? Either in videos or in person or both. Maybe he's seen UFOs as well, because you don't write this kind of paper unless you've seen some stuff. If you want to understand how to manipulate gravity, if you want to understand how free energy is possible, you need to read this paper. Specifically, read the discussion section portion of it. If you don't even have to, if you want to take his word for it and that the math is correct, just read the discussion section. There you go, chat. Okay. So read that paper. And then this paper here, let me make sure this goes to the right link. Okay, it does. Okay. And then this paper that I was just posting for the Dirac holes theory. So try to learn as much as we can about Dirac holes. If you guys find any more stuff about Dirac holes, post it in our science channel and our Discord as well, please. Very important. Great work. Great work on that one. Okay. Now let's move on to who wants to learn a little bit about Tesla, guys? Should we listen to a little bit of Tesla videos? Let's listen to a little Tesla. We might get copyright striked on this one. I don't know. Let's hope that Master Evo isn't too picky about this. Oh shit. I don't know why. Let's see here. Oh, that's interesting. So after you share, you can full screen it. It doesn't mess up the screen. Interesting.
In 1891, Nikola Tesla gave a lecture in New York. This essential lecture holds the key to understanding many of his mysterious demonstrations of what he later called radiant energy. He explained and demonstrated in the lecture the disruptive discharge of the capacitor.
I love you, Tesla.
Which produced the current impulse. In this video, I will share quotes from the lecture and explain the principles using my VR 3D whiteboard. I will also give a demonstration with an experiment. Experiments with alternate currents of very high frequency and their application to methods of artificial illumination.
Already I'm excited. Alternating currents of very high frequency. Yep, I'm interested. Why am I interested? Because Salvatore Paez and his patents were the first time I thought, I didn't even know what alternating current was a year ago, chat. I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't even know what fucking alternating current was, okay? And then you start to learn alternating current of extremely high frequencies might be able to induce superconductivity as well. So pretty interesting. Here we go. And Nikola Tesla was talking about 1891. 1891? What? Wild. I don't need a Google Drive with all the scientific papers. I have, let's say, at least one Discord that has every single link to every scientific paper we've ever posted. So if anything were to happen to me, I've got a bunch of admins in the Discord. They'll take care of that. This is why our Discord is very locked down in terms of what people can post. So we take no risks for no chance the Discord can be banned.
Nikola Tesla delivered this lecture before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers at Columbia College, New York, May 20th in 1891. That's a long time ago, 133 years ago. And still we don't get it. So let me explain a little bit more about this essential lecture about the
130 years ago, chat. 130 years ago, and we still don't know how free energy is possible. How stupid are we as a species? Tesla figured this out 130 years ago, and we're still sitting around here going, the laws of thermodynamics say that we can't have free energy. Jesus, man, we are stupid, honestly, just as a species.
Powerful electrostatic effects, which Tesla used to get his magic working.
Notice something else he just said there, electrostatic effects. Why are electrostatic effects so important? Because electrostatic has to do with charges and asymmetrical charges as well. So now you're starting to see the connection. Electrostatics is what produces gravity, polarizing the vacuum. You polarize a region of space of the vacuum, and you can create a gravitational force, either a repulsive force or attractive force if you engineer it correctly.
Introduction. Nature has stored up in the universe infinite energy. The eternal recipient and transmitter of this infinite energy is the ether.
Wait for it.
Eternal recipient and transmitter of this infinite energy is the ether. The recognition of the existence of ether and of the functions it performs is one of the most important results of modern scientific research. The assumption of a medium pervading all space and connecting all gross matter has freed the minds of thinkers of an ever-present doubt. It has been a great step towards the understanding of the forces of nature and their multifold manifestations to our senses.
How is it real that he said all that in 1891? Tesla said that in 1891. There's an ether of unlimited energy and all mass and energy is connected. Why is that important? That's the concept that all points in space and time are connected. Everything in space and time is connected. That's why we can make a wormhole. That's why we can just bend this napkin in half and then puncture a hole through it. Because Tesla was right. All points in space and time are connected. There's an ether. Everything is connected out there. We don't perceive it because we don't see the extra dimension that we are folded up in.
Now, there's a whole part that I'm going to skip through because I want to get to the essential part of this lecture.
Got it. This is why I don't do a green screen, by the way, guys. No offense, but this is why I don't do a green screen. I just rather have you see the background. I don't want my half my face getting chopped out or whatever is going on with this dude right now. He looks like a monster right here. What's this?
The lecture deals mostly with the production of light. It's 1891. They are using electricity now, and he has found a way that is very unique, and that is completely vanished from our field of interest.
I love when people throw the little political jabs in there. Looks like a Kamala event, guys. If you don't get that joke, it's because everyone was arguing that all her crowds are photoshopped. You guys crack me up, chat.
Maybe because we don't understand how it worked, but I think he's pretty clear. So I'm going to skip all that stuff about lightning, but it is the way he did it with electrostatic effects. So electrostatic fields, we know them from when we pull our sweater off and you get the crackling noise. That's electrostatic.
And the dielectric field between the plates of a charged capacitor. Electrostatic. Separating your charges.
It can manifest in materials that are isolators, that can be polarized. But also conductors can produce electrostatic fields. Conductors can be polarized very easily and very quickly. And that's exactly what he did. He built up an electrostatic field around a conductor by providing it gradually a very high voltage, which built up that electrostatic field. And then he suddenly discharged that electrostatic voltage through a spark gap. And that's the whole principle. And he's explaining it clearly in his lecture. So let me.
People just need to listen to this, man. Tesla was talking about this. This is exactly what people have theorized in order to produce anti-gravity. Very high voltages. He said you build your voltage up to build a very powerful electrostatic field. And when we watch our video of electrostatics, let me see if I can find it real quick. Shit. Let me see if I can find it. Shit. I have a video and now I can't find it. Well, whatever. I had a pretty cool video of in space where they take this electrostatic effect and they show when you take water drops, it spins around a knitting needle. Maybe if it's a needle, if I Google. I mean, I had this like a second ago. Okay, I found it. Found it, chat. Found it. Science of... here we go. Ready? So why is electrostatic effect so important?
I got it on pause, and what you're looking at is a knitting needle. And I happen to have in my crew preference a couple of knitting needles. It's 8 millimeters in needle.
What does that look like? What does that look like, chat?
So this is like a little...
Does that look like gravity?
Going around a cylindrical shape planet.
Why does it look like gravity?
The here is a
because there's a connection.
It's not about gravitation.
It's not about gravitation? All right. This is where, like, even the NASA guy doesn't even get what he's staring at. It's not about gravitation. It just looks exactly like gravitation. Why does it look? Why does electrostatic charge look just like gravitation? Because there's a connection between the two of them. Like, that should be pretty obvious.
And, of course, charges can exert a potential field, as we call it. So it can exert a force at a distance with no tangible connection. And so you have a charge.
You could just change the word electrostatic with gravity, and it would all make perfect sense as well. Gravity can exert a force at a distance. So can electrostatic fields. Like, we should be sitting here wondering, like, why are we not considering the concept that the two are connected?
That was was ejected from the Teflon-tipped syringe. And then you have the
I'm probably going to post this video again soon. The only reason why I didn't is because I wanted to take it a step further, but I need to make sure what I say is accurate, so they don't try to community note me or some bullshit.
charged knitting needle, and they're going to be attracted if they're opposite charges. But because the drop has some velocity to it, it's orbiting around the knitting needle.
There you go.
Now, this knit needle happens to be a little different than when we started out. This knit needle is made out of Teflon. And
Yes, that is why your hair sticks to the balloon, Yogini. You are correct. And those concepts are directly connected. You can imagine powering that concept up. That's what adding the voltage is doing. It's powering it up, powering that concept up, very high voltages. This is why we need very high voltages to pull this stuff off.
Go on. Many have been carried away by the enthusiasm and passion to discover. But in their zeal to reach results, some have been misled. Starting with the idea of producing electromagnetic waves, they turned their attention perhaps too much to the study of electromagnetic effects and neglected the study of electrostatic phenomena. Naturally, nearly every investigator availed himself of an apparatus similar to that used in earlier experiments, but in those forms of apparatus, while the electromagnetic inductive effects are enormous, the electrostatic effects are excessively small.
So why did we ignore electrostatic effects? Because the effects were very small. But what if you can charge it up and you can make it so that it's not necessarily very small? Now, do you guys know what Charles Bueller, the EM drive guy, do you know what his expertise is? He's the #1 expert in electrostatics for NASA propulsion. That's where Charles Bueller, the guy who's been doing the EM drive stuff, he was on Glenn Beck, etc. Electrostatics. You think that's a coincidence? That the guy that's working on EM drive is the #1 expert at NASA in terms of electrostatics, probably one of the top experts in the world on electrostatics. And now Tesla was looking into electrostatics. Question that Arwen brings up is, how are the orbs powered with high voltages? There's two options. One, either they're able to extract their own energy requirements directly from the ether through the connection of cold fusion. The other option is something that General Quast, Stephen Quast, has mentioned many times, using electromagnetism to transmit power wirelessly. Perhaps we're just beaming the power directly to the orbs from somewhere else, either from the sky, from the ground. That could also be possible. So there's more than one way to skin this cat out there.
Yep, that's what I'm missing. Now he talks about the Hertz experiments, and those are electromagnetic induction experiments. And he says the static effects may be considerable, but only qualitatively so, not quantitatively, since their rise and fall is sudden, and since their frequency is small. In neither case, therefore, are powerful electrostatic effects perceivable. Basically, he talks about a voltage impulse from a coil. I worked with those for years, and I found out that that's not the way to go if you want electrostatic effects. A voltage impulse from a coil, inductive spike, or often called back EMF, goes up and down in voltage. And I explained that in another video, that the displacement of energy then goes back and forth. And he says it won't work that way. Let's continue. When a high tension induction coil operated by currents alternating only 20,000 times a second has its terminals closed through even a very small jar, and a jar is a capacitor, practically all the energy passes through the dielectric of the jar, which is heated, and the electrostatic effects manifest themselves outwardly only in a very weak degree. Now, I showed you that in my previous video, where I used paper as a dielectric between my capacitor plates, which are coils. And that paper heated up to around 50 degrees Celsius from a high voltage source. So yeah, there goes my electrostatic effect. And so I already came to the conclusion that that paper...
He did say back EMF, JK Philly fan. JK Philly fan is right over the target.
Paper isn't going to work. I'm losing my energy there. That's not the way to go. Better is using air. Best, and he talks about it later, is a vacuum. Now, let me remind you that a vacuum is full of ether. And ether is just another word for energy. So the vacuum is not empty, it is full of energy. Next bit.
Guys, You guys still don't think I know what I'm talking about here? You still don't think we're correct? This random YouTuber is sitting here quoting Tesla, saying all the same stuff. The ether, unlimited energy, vacuum's not empty, space isn't empty, guys. Guys, all we have to do is wake up, man. Literally all we gotta do is just wake up. We can be in Star Trek world.
But powerful electrostatic effects are a sine qua non of light production and the lines indicated by theory. And sine qua non means essential. So he says electrostatic effects are essential. Electromagnetic effects are primarily unavailable for the reason that to produce the required effects, we would have to pass current impulses through a conductor. So he talks about using current impulses. Well, I made a video about that. A current impulse is a singular change, a unipolar change in voltage. And when does that happen? It is with the discharge of a capacitor. So current impulses, capacitor discharge, we need a static field, electrostatic field. That means we need a high voltage capacitor. Long transverse waves cannot apparently produce such effects, since excessively small electromagnetic disturbances may pass readily through miles of air. Such dark waves, unless, and that's electromagnetic waves, unless they are of the length of true light waves, cannot, it would seem, excite luminous radiation in a Geissler tube. And the luminous effects which are producible by induction in a tube devoid of electrodes, I am inclined to consider as being of an electrostatic nature. To produce such luminous effects, straight electrostatic thrusts are required. These, whatever be their frequency, may disturb the molecular charges and produce light. Since current impulses of the required frequency cannot pass through a conductor of measurable dimensions, we must work with a gas. And then the production of powerful electrostatic effects becomes an imperative necessity. It's so interesting to me because he says straight electrostatic thrusts are required. An electrostatic thrust. He's talking about electrostatic thrust. Okay. Thrust does remind me of my own experiments with electrostatic thrusts. The field.
I think he's pretty much talking about longitudinal waves here, before longitudinal waves were even called longitudinal. I could be wrong, but that's what I imagine. Yeah, straight electrostatic. You can actually see at the bottom, it actually says longitudinal right here. So the difference between a longitudinal and transverse waves. He's saying you can't pull this off with transverse waves. You need longitudinal waves. And presumably electromagnetic waves are longitudinal through the ether. I believe that's something I've heard before.
Propulsion video shows this effect. And that video also demonstrates that same current impulse, a slow charge of the voltage and a very abrupt sudden discharge of the voltage. And I demonstrated in that video that if a capacitor is used, then that capacitor is set in motion by that powerful discharge, which produces that longitudinal thrust. I'll include the link in the description below to that video. Okay, we go on. Now it comes. Electrostatic effects being dependent upon the potential and frequency to produce the most powerful action, it is desirable to increase both as far as practicable. It may be possible to obtain quite fair results by keeping either of these factors small, provided the other is sufficiently great, but we are limited in both directions. So voltage.
So we need high voltage and we need high frequency. That's basically what he just said down there. Very high voltage, very high frequency. And then we're going to start getting free energy straight out of the ether.
And frequency. It might be thought at first that if the bulb containing the filament or button of refractory material be perfectly well exhausted, that is, as far as it can be done by the use of the best apparatus, the heating would be much less intense, and that in a perfect vacuum, it could not occur at all. This is not confirmed by.
It is interesting that he says that he prefers a vacuum to the atmosphere, because the atmosphere acts as an insulator as well, right? So we want our charges to be able to flow freely, but air is an insulator. This is why for lightning to occur, you have to have the charge build up to a degree where it can actually basically crack through the insulator of air, and then you get a lightning strike. This is also why power lines are suspended in the air and not buried in the ground, because the ground is a conductor. The air is an insulator. This is why you keep the power suspended in the air. If you ever wanted to know why we don't bury all our power lines, there you go.
By my experience, quite the contrary. The better the vacuum, the more easily the bodies are brought to incandescence. And this result is interesting for many reasons. First, he goes on explaining how it all works, that he uses electrostatic fields and uses these alternating electrostatic fields to speed up the air molecules that bump into the filament and produce the light. And then he goes on like, yeah, well, actually in a vacuum, no air molecules, it is more easily to produce the light. Whoa. Yeah. Okay, next one. The matter in the globe being radiant, the molecules would move in straight lines. He already talks about radiant matter. That's really interesting. Because you need high voltage for an electrostatic inductive effect. If you want to go low voltage, it won't work. And what is low? Well,
this is interesting. Plasma oscillations. Jessica McGuire out of left field. Plasma oscillations are known as Langmuir waves, which are purely longitudinal. Now that's really interesting because I heard through the grapevine that we don't even need a laser to be able to produce the black hole effect that we see with the orbs for the magnetic monopole to occur, that we can do it just through oscillation of plasma alone. Now, maybe that's the reason why, because all of those waves are longitudinal. That's interesting that might be possible. I might end up having to look through that. Yeah, very fascinating.
Well, in the modern terms, high voltage starts at 1000 volts. And in my experience, it starts working around 4000 volts that you will see some effect of it. But actually,
so I heard that he says 4000 volts. Try like 20,000 volts or higher, maybe even a lot higher.
Actually, 20,000 volts. Yeah, you're getting electrostatic effects. You will notice them.
In fact, you might need to be much higher than 20,000 to have significant impact. So I would be thinking like on the tune of like 100,000 volts. So you need a lot of volts.
Or a few pages further on. If a tube be lighted at some distance from the coil and a plate of hard rubber or other insulating substance be interposed, the tube may be made to go out. So he has a coil with electrostatic effects. He has a bulb that is luminescent from that electrostatic induction, and you put in dielectric material like rubber between it, it diminishes. That would not happen with electromagnetic induction. The interposition of the dielectric in this case only slightly increases the inductive.
Right there, you said something interesting, is that you get an effect with electrostatics, and you know it's electrostatic because if you put rubber in between it, something that would normally be a wall, it doesn't block the effect. So the rubber would block an electromagnetic effect, but it's not blocking the electrostatic effect. I think that's what he just said right there, right? Yeah.
Independent vibrations. For this, a sudden release is necessary. So you compress a string and you let it go. So with the alternate currents from a dynamo machine, electromagnetic induction, the medium is harmonic.
Genetic jabber. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm sure this guy's very smart, but the people I talk to, this is the difference between being someone who's a theorist and a YouTuber versus being somebody that works in like black projects, right? That's the difference. So there you go.
Harmonically strained and released, and the medium is the ether, the energy surrounding.
This guy's cool, right? But he's probably never worked at a Lockheed Martin laboratory or Northrop Grumman laboratory or what have you, where they have the best, most powerful equipment, most expensive equipment on the planet. The people that I talk to, they've got better access to better stuff, man.
The experiment, the coils, this giving rise to only one kind of waves, electromagnetic waves. A sudden contact or break or a sudden given way of the dielectric, as in the disruptive discharge of a Leyden jar, are essential for the production of superimposed waves. How clear can he be? Why didn't nobody get this? Or why didn't I get this? I've been so many years working at it. It's not electromagnetic at all. You can use it, of course, and probably it is needed for the production of electric power. That's what I'm talking about. But that's what I'm after. To be clear, that's the goal.
So I love it because this is what I love about this guy. He's like, I've worked for so many years and he didn't even understand that it was all about electrostatics, not about magnetism. And now he's starting to see. So just to go back to genetic jabber here, this is the point here, is that you can be and work for as many big companies as you want, and you can possibly go your whole life without ever understanding how the universe really works. The number of electricians and number of electrical engineers that don't even understand how power works at the most basic level is embarrassingly high. So you should never assume that, oh, my YouTuber has got 7 million viewers or subscribers. He must know what he's talking about. Or he spent 10 years in doing experiments. Doesn't matter, man. The people that work for the private military contractors, they've seen literal fucking magic. Magic. Their equipment is beyond any bullshit that you've ever seen in any homegrown lab. It's not even comparable. Not even comparable.
Of all my experiments, to find out how to do that and share it with you, so we can all benefit and go to the next level of our world. It's about time, isn't it?
And at the end of the day, it's not a dick measuring contest. It's just a matter of trying to get the information out there to everybody and have everybody see the situation from the right perspective. Why is electrostatics so big? Well, because once again, if we can just simply use electrostatics like Charles Bueller, former NASA propulsion guy, expert at electrostatics, is trying to do to show that we can have anomalous thrust in the vacuum, everything we've been talking about is proven to be true. Everything. Once the first domino falls, everything's true, guys.
133 years later. Okay, let's continue by using a powerful, rapidly alternating electrostatic field. So that is not a normal form of resonance. Next page. In such an electrostatic field, interesting phenomena may be observed, especially if the alternations are kept low and the potentials excessively high. In addition to the luminous phenomena mentioned, one may observe that any insulated conductor gives sparks when the hand or another object is approached to it, and the sparks may often be powerful. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment that you just made right there. Here's the link to this if you guys want to check it out. I think it's also in the Discord as well. Lobster says they know how to make it work and hook it up, but they don't know how it works. Exactly. That's the crazy part. They don't teach electricians any of this stuff. They don't teach you Tesla. If you're an electrician or electrical engineer, I would be just trying to learn from Tesla, right? Like he knew way more than most people know. Okay, we're going to probably skip ahead a little bit. Let's listen to another minute
watch,
or two.
I think. So he has a room with coils, and he has induced them with the electrostatic by the disruptive discharge of a high voltage capacitor, single change of voltage, and the coils become electrostatic resonant, let's call it that way, because I'm not sure if it's the longitudinal magnetodielectric mode, but it makes sense. So LMD. And then inside that field, everything becomes electrified from the electrostatic field that is changing rapidly. Very high voltages he mentions, and a low frequency. This is also interesting. It is true, the electrostatic effects diminish nearly with the cube of the distance from the coil, whereas the electromagnetic inductive effects diminish simply by the distance. So this is generally accepted and known, but he says, when we establish an electrostatic field of force, the condition is very different. For then, instead of the differential effect of both the terminals, we get their conjoined effect. What? The electrostatic field of force? Okay. He is using that electrostatic induction from the disruptive discharge. So actually, he is talking about a dynamic effect, and that cumulative wave, that superimposed wave, is from that single direction discharge. Now, it's interesting to think about which polarity to discharge, because we can discharge from positive to 0, or we can discharge from negative voltage to 0. There is a difference there, and he has referred to that. The apparatus must be capable of producing high electrostatic potentials, changing in value with extreme rapidity. High frequencies are especially wanted because then you can keep the potential a little bit more down, but still you need high voltages.
Okay, so what I've gleaned from this, and I'm by no means an expert, is that you need to change your potential. So you can either build up a very powerful positive potential or a very powerful negative potential. And where is the effect coming from? From the discharge of reducing that and changing it very rapidly, increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing, to create a resonance from your electrostatic potentials that are going on there. So what's a resonance? Is just a dunk, 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 dunk. So you have your resonance and you're using your electrostatic potentials and maybe flipping them or having them go from 0. And you can imagine that being like a wave, right? Constantly shifting. And this is what Tesla was looking at, not electromagnetic transverse waves, but electrostatic potentials and longitudinal waves. In terms of how to tweak it, I would say keep watching this video. For the sake of time, we're going to probably have to skip ahead here, but there's some pretty spicy stuff in here, guys. And I'm probably going to end up watching this video a bunch more times, especially as I learn more and more about the electromagnetic concepts or electrostatic concepts, because I think that what we just heard here, if you want to understand how free energy works, you need to understand everything that he's mentioning here. And if you understand that, you will probably be able to make your own free energy device, is my opinion. One of the things I keep telling people is it's not as simple as, here's a schematic, check it out. You have to understand the concepts. What we're watching right now are the concepts directly from the king himself, the GOAT, Tesla. And if you understand the concepts, then you can tell which devices are going to be able to produce over unity free energy and maybe make your own. And then you could reproduce the ones that you think are legit. So let's skip to, I want to see the closing words.
Energy of any other form in some more direct way.
So, but there is a possibility of any obtaining energy, not only in the form of light, but motive power and energy of any other form in some more direct way from the medium.
From the medium, and the medium is ether, energy. We are whirling through endless space with an inconceivable speed. All around us, everything is spinning, everything is moving. Everywhere is energy.
Everything is spinning, everything is moving. Sounds just like Terrence Howard. There is no zero. There is nothing standing still. And then he has to go and take it a step too far and say 1 + 1 × 1 = 2, which screws everything all up. There must be some way of availing ourselves of this energy more directly than with the light obtained from the medium, with the power derived from it, with every form of energy obtained without effort, from the store forever unexhaustible. Humanity will advance with great strides. The mere contemplation of these magnificent possibilities expands our minds, strengthens our hope, and fills our hearts with supreme delight. Incredible. Okay, so he's got some examples. Here's 20,000 volts here, 20,000 kilovolts. This is cool. This is actually really cool, but we don't have time to go through all this tonight. Maybe we'll look at some of it later as well. But I think he does an experiment here at the end.
See high voltage, and I connected the negative side up to this capacitor and the positive side to the other side of the capacitor, which are two 500 picofarad capacitors, which are rated for around 15 kilovolts, I believe. So together they can handle 30 kilovolts. Here's a little fan that's connected to the battery, and then here is the spark gap. Spark gap now is around 5 millimeters wide, so it can generate a lot of voltage. Basically 3 kilovolt per millimeter, so 5 millimeters would be 15 kilovolts, but that's a rough guessing. Now here I've got a grounded coil. Let me put a safety clip on this. So I've got this copper rod, and that is where I discharge through. So the positive side of the capacitor is at this time earth grounded. So the negative side charges up with negative voltage, and it passes through this copper rod to the spark gap, which is then on the other side grounded. So the capacitor discharges through the rod to ground. So we have a negative voltage that is built up by the flyback into the capacitor bank, and when the spark gap triggers it, it discharges suddenly within around 14 nanoseconds. Now around this, I have a tube. It's a coil, and I've grounded it on one side. So basically this is another capacitor, because this will be charged up negative to negative 15 kilovolts in theory, and this will be earth grounded. Now the other side of that coil is probed by the blue lead. It's a high voltage probe. And then I've got an orange high voltage probe here, which is loose coupled. It is not touching the metal, but it's nearby, and thereby it will sense the fields that are being presented as an electrostatic field that is being built up and discharged. Now, this is a DC discharge, and these discharges are extremely noisy. I've got a scope over here. I'm going to set it to auto trigger, and let's just run it. Prepare for the noise.
Let's watch what's going to happen here. I don't even really know. When he's talking about those capacitors, remember, we want this resonance capacitor discharge, where he's talking about he's got a positive side and a negative side, and you can build it up on either side, and then you're going to discharge that positive or negative charge.
Noise. Oh, let's first take off the safety. That's a good one. Everything's safe. Yeah, I believe so. Here we go. Really, that noise, it's deafening. And actually, I've got earmuffs for that. And I didn't put them on because I also wanted to experience that noise. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. One more time. Here we go. Yes. That's a good recording. Okay, I'm going to show you the scope shot, and we'll be able to zoom into that. Okay, here we've got the scope shot. As you can see, the orange is the trigger signal, and the blue is the coil. So directly probed on a coil. I'm going to zoom in, and first we'll take a look at those orange ones. So this is loose probe. The voltage isn't correct, because if I would grab that, I would probably less than 80 nanoseconds.
I don't know what this means,
starts
chat.
Oscillating then, so there will be a little bit of overshoot. So actually, I would say the average is around here, which is 40 to 50 nanoseconds discharge. And that is that 12 to 15 kilovolts. So that is a massive dV/dt. Very, very, very strong. Now let's take a look at the blue signal. The blue signal is the probe coil. It's very high in frequency. Let's zoom out a little bit and look at that signal. That's a little bit weird to me. So you've got a ring that dies off, and that is to be expected. But there's something strange about this. Let me turn off the orange, and let's center this one, and maybe we can scale it a bit. So in the start, we have a negative to 0 discharge. And this also goes from 0 to positive. So that is the same polarity. That's all good. But the weird thing is, it then goes down, becomes less negative. It goes up, it becomes more. And it goes down, and it goes even more. Let me scale that back. You see how that rings? Let me zoom in a little bit more to that front of that oscillation. So here we start. We go up. Go down, we go up higher, we go down higher. So actually, we have a ring up. That's strange. Why is it ringing up? It should be ringing down. It should get its maximum amplitude from that shock.
Yeah, why is the amplitude increasing there? So what you would expect is every wave afterwards to get smaller and smaller, right? Instead, what you see is this amplification effect happening right there. So it's like if I bounced the ball and the ball bounced higher than from the distance I dropped it. It's like if I drop the ball right here and it bounces and then it goes way up here, you're like, wait, what? That's not how it should work. There's a bounce back effect happening right there. Now, I do understand that. That is incredible, if you ask me.
And then ring down, but it doesn't. It rings up. Then it's not sure what's going to do, but then it decides, yeah, I'm definitely going to ring down, and it's ringing down. And then the frequency changes, at least, because in that period here, I can't see that high frequency oscillation anymore. It starts out with a third harmonic, and then it goes 3 octaves down. It slowly transforms into a slower vibration. That slower vibration dies off. I'm going to look for a different discharge. Maybe there's one that rings a little bit better. So I've got it zoomed in now. And again, you can see that the oscillations start out really quickly and then become a lower frequency.
Okay, so I think we're going to stop right there. So you can imagine then, now you can start to understand the idea of harmonics. Like, why is harmonics and oscillations and resonance come into play? Because of what we just looked at in that graph. We're talking about trying to create a harmonic situation or a graphical situation where we create an amplification effect. And we just saw right there potentially the basis for how to create an amplification effect. Maybe it's a very small window of opportunity, but now you just need to be able to repeat that. And now perhaps that's the way where, you know, once again, the scenario, the example I like to give is how you shatter a wine glass. is that you can imagine if you're spinning around your wine glass, or you are, putting some kind of sound to your wine glass or a tuning fork to it, it's going to keep vibrating until it gets to a point where it shatters, because you have this amplification effect happening. So it's the same kind of concept, an analogous concept to that as well. And now you can imagine how we might be able to amplify to energy degrees that are, almost infinite. And this is why I think in Salvatore Pais' high frequency gravitational wave generator patent, he talks about amplifying energy to a degree where you could destroy a planetoid or asteroid, or maybe even beyond that. Now you start to understand how we can extract unlimited energy from the vacuum, and how we can get enough energy to create a black hole. This is where people come to me and say, they would take this huge amount of energy. Well, if you can amplify energy, it doesn't matter how much it can take. We have access to unlimited. So there you guys go, guys. Okay, I hope you guys appreciate it. Hope you guys like the stream tonight. That's going to be the end of our free Energy Friday stream. This was an awesome week full of awesome streams. Thank you guys, MH370X, for hanging out and going through this. I would highly recommend watching this video if you haven't watched it. This video is awesome. It explains a lot of the concepts. And until everybody figures out this science and figures out those concepts, we're going to basically just keep rewatching and keep grinding it into us. So should be sweet, guys. Okay, guys, have a sweet one. Have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. I don't know what the topic is going to be for Malaysian Airlines Monday yet. We'll see. If I start running out of topics, I'll just change it up, Okay, MH370X, have a great night. Love you guys. Peace, bros. What are we going with tonight? Let's go with the favorite.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos,